Welcome to Getcha Rocks Off with Mick Wall, the world's leading rock and metal writer. Each fortnight, Mick will unpack rock and roll stories. Stories that you probably won't find in print. So pour yourself a Jack and Coke and get ready to get your rocks off.
And we're off and running. Welcome to another episode of Getcha Rocks Off with me, Mick Wall, and my trusty companion, constant companion, dear friend.
Close personal friend. Business associate.
Yes.
Accomplice in ritual, John Houghton.
Yes.
Now you are there, right?
I'm down this end, far end of the table today.
You are.
It's a slight switch around in the studio, but I'm glad to say the heavy metal pug is at my feet.
Coco, the heavy metal pug. Yeah, we've had, I think maybe if you just come in just a little bit.
Just a little bit closer to the microphone.
A little bit.
My microphone technique.
Yes. Yes, we've had requests.
Yeah.
The Judas Priest episode, we had the snoring pug in the room. He's back, because if we don't, he stands outside yelping. His name's Coco, and so let's just get that out of the way.
Yeah, if you hear it, that's what it is.
If you hear snoring, it's not me.
It could
not
be.
always
It
me.
could be.
It could be me.
Yeah.
It probably isn't. Right. So today we have decided we're going to talk about in rock music and any form of music, I guess, but particularly rock music, being on the road, being on tour. You know, that's where it all goes on.
It's the thing. It's the one thing when you're kind of, you're at a party or something, people say to you, what do you do? You're doing those boring conversations. Oh, well, I've done this, I've done that. They always go to you, what's it like? What's it like on the road?
Yeah,
and in many ways, it's a really difficult question to answer, because the only answer is, well, it depends on the band. Depends on the band.
I just say, listen, if I could fucking remember, it wouldn't be a good trip, would it?
Well, yeah. So it's going to be quite a short podcast today, obviously, given that it's about what it's like to be on the road.
As a kid, before I ever went on the road, that was my fantasy. You know, you'd read about these rock stars that have been on the road for a year or something. I mean, when I was a kid, if they went on the road for 6 months, that was considered, a really long tour.
Yeah.
And then they'd have to have 3 months off after nervous exhaustion. Or you'd read in the music about they had a well-deserved rest.
Yeah.
And I used to think, wow, 3 months off because you had to go touring. Surely touring is like being on holiday all the time.
Yeah,
that's what you think, isn't it?
It is,
and it can be like that if you're parachuting in as a journalist or a record company person, or you're just there for a few days.
Seems like fun. Hey lads, we're here. What should we do now?
But once you've done it for about 8 weeks, you never.
The grind sets in.
Never want to do it again.
It is Groundhog Day, and especially I think the experience changes. The more accomplished and the more successful the band become. Because once they become incredibly successful, once they're on the sort of stadium route, for example, everything has to run like absolute clockwork. It has to.
Yeah.
And so it just it's like you might as well be in the army as be on the road.
It's true. I did. We'll start at the beginning, but you just saying that. Last year, I did a book tour with Francis Rossi, the singer of Status Quo.
I mean, talking of stadiums, folks, did you see it at Wembley, or did you see it at Hampden Park?
No, we were doing arts centres and seaside venues.
Yeah,
it was what they call the
where all the old people are.
Listen,
the secondary circuit,
that's called the secondary circuit, right?
The OAP circuit.
God bless you. No, yes. No, because it was a book tour, so it's not Status Quo.
There's no one there to hear stories about Status Quo.
No.
They want to talk about literature.
Well, we did 36 shows. over 7 weeks, 5 shows a
Yeah,
week.
that's a schedule for you.
And we're all of us. There's 4 of us in total.
So Francis, yeah,
his PA,
yeah, who's called
Lyanne,
yeah,
Tonto, the production manager, basically.
He's never been a roadie, has he? Tonto.
And me. And we're on the luxury tour bus.
You can actually tell what era Tonto became a roadie in by his nickname, by his non-PC nickname.
Oh dear. I'd love to get Tonto together with Ross, my favourite photographer.
Yeah.
They're very similar.
Ross has a great love for all forms of authority on the road.
Yeah, Tonto does as well. I remember we'd walking into a venue with him and they said, "Have you got your pass?" He goes, "My face is my pass." And he's a really fierce looking guy. Yeah, it's like, "You're all right, mate."
Yeah, just let him in.
But anyway,
and the fourth person, there's Tonto. You're the fourth.
So
the fourth wheel.
The
what
second banana, if you know.
Yeah, what's the vehicle that's transporting you?
Literally the top line you can get. I think they're called Nightline buses. I've probably got that wrong, but straight after us, it was going to be Emma Bunton's bus.
Oh, okay,
because all the Spice Girls get a bussy.
Yeah,
because they're all bitches that hate each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was, and then when we picked it up this year, we only did 4 shows this year.
Emma Bunton would have been delighted to. Hopefully, she took it over on the day that you left it.
I tell you what,
straight in,
spotless.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah,
okay.
No drinking, spotless.
Sounds like a fun tour.
7 weeks, and it was a fun tour until about the last week or so, where everybody. You can't even explain it. It's not like, say, we're on the road and you've done something that's really pissed me off. It is that old cliche about he left the top off the toothpaste or something. He left the tea bag out, or whatever it is. It'll be something that literally does not matter in any normal world. But by week 6 or 7 on the tour bus, it will actually turn into a blood feud. And that very final night, literally, we're in this venue we were in. He was doing a meet and greet afterwards, book signing, and in this particular venue, we had to go down the back of the stage and down some steps into the lobby, and literally, as I was coming down the steps, he was stood there waiting for me. And this is the 36th night, you know. And as I'm coming down, he goes to me, "If you don't want to fucking do this with me anymore, you can fuck off." I'm like, "Why would you fucking say that to me? What do you mean?" And we're like, and then we get pushed to the door, and there's all the people. I'm like,
"Hiya, it's all going great."
Yeah. Somebody said to me that same night, "So are you just a really old friend of Francis that comes along and does this?" And I said, No, I'm a writer and blah blah. Oh, I thought maybe, because the two of you got such great chemistry that maybe you're just really old friends, and we're looking at each other like,
you want to kill each other. Yeah.
So I thought that might be my last ever show, but time heals. And of
course, Francis is no stranger himself to this state of mind, because he's been on the road since he was 20 years old, maybe younger. He knows.
Well, he was at school when Status Quo, they weren't called Status Quo, but when they first started gigging. Yeah. And then their first professional be away from home thing was when they got the gig at Butlins.
Yeah, at Minehead, yeah.
And I think he turned 16 the day they arrived at Butlins.
Wow, yeah.
So in his case, and he's 71 now, when I was researching the book I did with him,
here they go. Here they go.
Who let the dogs out?
Who let the dogs in?
Hang on. Shut up! Coco! Come here. Good boy. When I was researching,
I think his problem is he's got a girl's name. But he's a boy. It's provoked a severe identity crisis.
John, you tell an on the road story while I
Well, no. Let me tell you, What
was the first time you ever went on the road?
This wasn't a full on the road story, but talking of Minehead at Butlins, I did the road trip to Butlins when Quo did their anniversary, and it was, I don't know, God, thinking about maybe 30 years since they'd met. It was, I mean, that itself was probably almost 20, 25, 30, 50 years ago, whenever it was.
I think that tour you're talking about, that was the 25th anniversary.
Yeah, it was, and they put on the Quo Express that took us to Minehead in Butlins. It was a train that left from Euston Station or somewhere. And it was just, champagne breakfast all the way. Go to Butlins at Minehead, stay in a chalet, watch the Quo in the ballroom where they had first done their thing, and they did their thing again.
And these days, every 2 years at Butlins in Minehead, Butlins is a holiday camp for those around the world that don't know what it is. Your working man's holiday.
Yeah.
No frills.
That's what it is.
They have the Status Quo fan convention there every 2 years.
Do they?
It goes on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Yeah. And guess who your genial host is?
It's not. It's
I am
Mick
your
Wall.
It's Mick Wall. People go, "Are you the Mick Wall?" No, I'm the other one.
Yeah, I'm not that guy.
No.
Yeah.
But why did Axl? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Do you want to let the heavy metal pug in, John? You're
let him back in again.
Well, I think he won't shut up if we don't let him in. He might shut up if we let him in. It's the other hounds of hell that set him off.
Here he is.
Yeah. So, I hope you're enjoying this. Wherever you're listening to this. We're coming to you live from the kennels today. Yeah.
So that was your most recent experience of being on the road. You go back to sort of saying first trips on the road. I think because the nature of the job of being a journalist, when you first turn up to any magazine, when you're first employed, you are the most junior member by sort of dint of the fact you've just started and they've probably given you a couple of albums to review, a couple of gigs to review, and you've done okay and you've had a paycheck and you sort of start to think, maybe I am Hunter Thompson after all.
And then they go, have you ever heard of the Jelly Beans?
Yeah, you go, who the fuck? You go, yeah.
Would you like to go away with them for 5 days?
As a freelancer, the minute you hear the words, would you like to, the yes is out of your mouth before they've even finished the question.
If you're a proper freelancer, when I was the editor of Classic Rock magazine, the thing that used to send me mental was I would ring someone, a promising young writer.
Yeah.
I think we'll give him something. And I'd say, can't think of a good example, but does the name Status Quo mean anything? And they go, not really. And I go, well, I was thinking of maybe you could do a story. I don't really know much about them. I'm like, fucking wake up. Yeah. What the answer is? Yes.
Yeah.
Would you like to do a story?
I've written about hundreds of bands I've never even heard of. The name comes down the phone. You just go, yes.
Exactly.
I remember Jeff Barton said to me, do you want to go and interview the gay bikers on acid? I just said yes. I'd have no idea who they were.
And that was when you found out it wasn't actually a band.
It wasn't even
It was just some gay bikers on acid. And that was a turning point.
They lived in a tower block. It was hideous. My God.
But were they on acid?
I think they probably were.
I think they bikes
the singer was a bloke, but his name was Mary.
Okay.
Yeah, it was one of those. They were being ironic or something. I don't know.
They're on acid.
I never got to the bottom of it, Mick. I've got to say, I just did my story and buggered off. But anyway, so the nature is that you might be sent on the road, but you'll be sent on the road, but with a young band, and it's probably their first or second tour, and they're in the transit van, and they're delighted to be in the transit van, and they're delighted to be in the local. Sometimes they go. I've done tours where they'd go and stay with fans that night because they had nowhere to stay.
Oh dear.
The first,
you have been on some tragic tours, haven't you?
I'll tell you what that was. I'm pretty sure.
I'm
pretty sure. If you remember, at the no, it was at the sort of fag end of probably 87. I'll tell you who it was. It was the Choir Boys and Wolfsbane went on tour together.
Double header.
They did a double header when they were both just about to sort of
hot young things.
Yeah, they were hot young things. I don't know if they even had record deals at that point, but they were certainly being written about.
Certainly don't anymore.
They went on tour together. And I went with them, and that was...
was that your first tour?
It was my first cover story for Kerrang, because Blaze and Spike were on the cover. I remember that.
The singer of Wolfsbane,
Blaze, the singer of Wolfsbane, Spike, the singer of the Choir Boys. And the Choir Boys definitely were just dossing down at people's houses,
Yeah. But then I think they still do. You know?
Well, probably.
No, I'm kidding.
No,
but was that your first?
I'm
on
pretty
the
sure that was my
road?
first on the road, and we went somewhere like, it would have been Leicester and Wolverhampton, and then
Towns rightly
Yeah.
locked down at the moment.
Yeah. But the the kind of heavy metal Midlands or somewhere like that, it was just that. But it was great because it was, it was fulfilling that dream of what would it be like, what happens after the gig,
And what did?
because usually you
what
just
did
go
happen
home.
after? Did you Did you have any sex? And B,
Yeah.
did you take any drugs?
No and no. I think this first one I was so terrified of missing something, because you think, oh my, you read all these great road stories and you go, oh, Axl got into a fight with Vince because we went to this club and they had their knives out, and you think, well, I've got to be ready. I've got to be ready for when this happens, But really, I expect in reality, I don't remember anything about it. I expect in reality it was just Blaze getting and Steve Danger, who's the drummer in Wolfsbane, aptly named Steve Danger.
Has there ever been a better name for a drummer? Steve Danger.
So he probably nicked a car or something. Who knows what people did.
Probably an Austin Metro.
Yeah. So that was my first sort of one.
Shall I tell you about my first?
Yeah, I think you should.
Road trip? Yeah. It was in a transit van, and it was with a group called the Lurkers.
Yeah.
And the
Wow.
Lurkers,
Are they sort of punk type thing? I'm thinking
totally punk.
Yeah.
GBH
sprung into my mind as well. GBH and the Lurkers. That would be some sort of double bill or something. Was it? I don't know. I don't know why I thought that.
But the Lurkers are kind of like a poor man's English Ramones, in the sense that the Ramones would be
a poor man's Ramones, who themselves were
a poor man, just a poor man,
just poor men.
Man.
Yeah.
The Ramones would be 1, 2, 3, 4, the Lurkers would be 1, 2, 3, 4, dun, 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 dun. They were really good. They had one song called Shadow, 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 Shadow. I don't want to go in the shadow. I don't want to go in the shadow. All together now. Shadow.
I don't know
Shadow.
the words. I can't join in.
That was their big hit. That was their first single, and it got single of the week in Sounds or something. Anyway, they were weirdly, and this is purely coincidence, they were the very first group that I ever reviewed that the review was published. And the singer's name...
Spiked. All his first 27 efforts were spiked.
Yeah, about a year. I mean, I'd given up, and they finally published one. But the singer's name was Howard Wall, W-A-L-L.
Yeah.
And so...
people just thought you were... nepotism. Nepotism.
They had to keep putting... It was like Mick Wall in brackets.
No relation.
Which I thought really kind of ruined my first ever feature byline. But it was a very glamorous trip. It was a Sunday in 1978. And the Lurkers were from West London, which is where I was. And it was a gig they were doing in Bradford in a pub on a Sunday. In 1978.
Big turnout.
Oh yeah. I mean, you could... A Sunday now is still... It's a Sunday. But in 1978...
Sunday was Sunday.
That was fucking Sunday. You think lockdown's bad? Try a Sunday in 1978. In a transit van, having to sort of sit on some of the equipment for about 5 hours, doing 55 miles an hour at motor. Literally about 5 hours. We get there. And you've run out of your jokes and your bonhomie by then. You're just sick of everything. You've only just got there. I can't remember the name of the pub, but true to form, it was in the middle of Bradford, which was closed. Yeah, was that you or the pub?
That was both of us together.
And I can't remember the name of the venue, but it was a pub, and the landlord was... He came out and introduced. He goes, "Hello, lads. My name's Malcolm Fairplay. I'm Fairplay by name, Fairplay by nature." And he pulls out a crate of beer and he goes, "There you go, lads." Right? So I had a crate of beer, and Malcolm's wife was also on the scene.
Oh, yeah.
And she was fair play by nature as well. And I think at least 2 of the band shagged her. But here was the most glamorous bit, was we had
They're
to
only
sleep.
there for a couple of hours.
The dressing room was the toilet.
Yeah.
And we had to sleep on the floor of the venue. Which in those days where literally everyone smoked at least 2 cigarettes at once, the floor of any pub, it was like sleeping in an ashtray.
Yeah.
Except in those days you were sleeping in an ashtray while smoking a cigarette, while 2 of the band were double teaming the landlord's drunk wife.
It was a magnificent occasion. Still talked
12 of
about.
the audience. I counted. There was 12 people there.
Yeah.
Shadow. And then the next day we had to get in the transit and drive on a Monday morning, drive back to London.
Yeah.
And it was brutal.
Yeah.
It was absolutely. None of us had any money. There's no PR or tour manager. Just me and the band. Oh, that was you that time.
Yeah.
Shut up. That's the pug.
Yeah,
it's the pug.
it is.
I'm
The
sorry,
heavy metal
everybody.
pug.
Yeah. I will chuck him out in a minute. So that was my first trip, and it didn't put me off for life, but it could have done.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally just thought, this is awful.
This
Why
is
would you want to do this?
It's those ones where there's no one there. I remember doing one with the great Lisa Dominique,
Who you've
chanteuse,
mentioned once or twice
the
before.
Kerrang lady killer with a KKK.
Did you say
Sean,
KKK?
yeah, chanteuse.
I don't remember it being that bad.
Well, and yeah, she had a band, and in the band was her equally famous brother Marino, the guitar player.
Yes.
He was the guitar player in the band, and Lisa was the singer and the main attraction, as it were, because she was, a very beautiful.
She was a fair
woman.
maiden.
A fair maiden, not unlike the landlord's wife,
Yes.
Malcolm Fairplay's wife,
A future
but
Mrs. Fairplay.
a better version of that. And we went to Blackpool and Morecambe, I think, on tour.
Wow.
And
Blackpool is one of the
yeah,
known centres
and Lisa
of the
was,
rock and roll universe.
she was they'd get sort of like 60 or 70 people, maybe. That would be the size of the crowd, something like that.
Yeah.
Which was,
Not bad.
Yeah, you
For a
could.
group
You
no
start
one's heard
thinking. Yeah,
of.
you start thinking. Well, that's not bad. Don't you? Start thinking this is not bad. There's like 50 people.
Yeah.
This is not bad.
Yeah.
And we went to Morecambe, and the night before had been the Jim Bowen Bullseye Roadshow. We should explain
who
what that
Jim
is.
Bowen isn't-
Jim Bowen was a game show host in England, known for. He's a bit like Malcolm Fairplay again. But
He was
if
sort of
Malcolm
70s
Fairplay had made it to the TV,
made it to the top.
he made it to the
like
top.
Jim
He
Bowen.
would have been like Jim Bowen with his wisecracks,
like a northerner in a bow tie.
bow tie. Yeah,
Making mother-in-law gags.
that's exactly what he was. And he had a game show that was on TV, and it was called Bullseye, and it was darts themed. The great themed around the great
was.
pub dartboard.
Right.
So if you threw I don't know what it was. If you threw a 7, you won a car, and if you threw it, whatever it was, some crazy
car?
stupid.
It's a
No, it was a speedboat. Wasn't it? That was the big joke. Just look at what you
Speedboat.
could. Some couple of blokes from a council house in Wigan. You've won a speedboat. You've won a speedboat, lads. Great, yeah. What shall I do with that?
Park that on there.
Yeah, I'll park that on my jetty, shall I? Yeah. Go around the local duck pond on it. But the show became so popular. Actually, Jim had a road show, and he'd go to seaside towns. You were talking about seaside towns with Francis Rodriguez, seaside towns with Jim Bowen, and they had all this scenery. It was sort of the Bullseye had a sort of a mascot called Bully, who was a cartoon bull. Believe it or not,
You know far too much about
well, only
this.
because I saw the bloody Bullseye Roadshow, and backstage was all the roadies are going in to put Lisa's stuff up, and they're shifting the station, the big cutout of Bully, moving him out the way, and they're moving like Jim Bowen's
Bully.
chalked up on the dartboard. There's all these chalk score marks.
Like
And you
road
think,
show.
and you think this really isn't, what I said. But the strange thing was I wrote the story. came up. We'd messed about, done the usual stuff. Wrote the story, and I went on for some reason. I immediately had to go on holiday after doing that story. Me and my then girlfriend went to Greece, and I sort of forgot all about it. It's a lovely 2 weeks in Greece in the sun. Yeah, that's a proper holiday. None of your kind of rubbishy Morecambe Bay or whatever. Where else we just been. Came back, and the story had come out, and for some reason, it had all the funny story and all this stuff had happened. And everyone was going crazy about the stories. Oh, go back on the road again. And so Lisa and Marino were just about to go to Spain with Saxon.
She went on the road with them again.
Yeah, so we went on the road again.
Basically spent your whole career going on the road with Lisa
but
and Marino.
This trip to Spain with Saxon was, you talk about the steps up. All of a sudden, they're supporting Saxon. And Saxon they were probably on a slight downswing, it has to be said, from their glory days of the new wave British heaven. But they're still filling, 1,000-seat venues or whatever,
Yeah.
And
Arriba!
yeah, so we go on the road to
I can't do a Spanish.
No, so we
Mr.
start
Beef,
him. Yeah.
Mr. Byford.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I was like, Mr. Would you like this? He's the Biff. He's not what you call
a ray of sunshine.
Yeah. If you think of a ray of sunshine, if you think of
That's not
Malcolm
Biff.
Fairplay, that definitely isn't Biff. Right?
No, Biff is more sort of Malcolm. It's not fair play.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
This is, life isn't going as I want it to go.
Sorry to sidetrack. I know
Go
we
on.
don't.
No,
usually,
we should
We don't
sidetrack.
usually sidetrack, but I heard a few years ago, and I was racking my brains. Someone told me that Biff told them how Mick Wall. What did he say? Mick Wall's always had it in for them, or he hates. Mick Wall.
He does. He hates you.
Yeah, but why? I always loved me a bit of Saxon.
Yeah.
747
coming down in the night. For God's sake, get the ground lights on. One of heavy metal's.
For God's sake, get the ground lights on.
See, that's why Biff Byford hates you. The tone you sung that in, that mocking.
I used to love Stallions of the Highway.
See, this is why he hates you, because you say it in that voice.
What voice?
The Stallions of the
Because
Highway.
that's how he sings it. It goes, Stallions of the Highway.
He does. He does. Well, it's in the same way that you said last week, which was very true, that Judas Priest's only subject is heavy metal. Well, so is Biff Byford's, essentially. It's just finding lots and lots of ways of representing heavy metal. Stallions of the Highway, Wheels of Steel, Crusader, 747, Dallas 1 p.m. What it was? Dallas 1 p.m.
Dallas 1 p.m. Yeah, I love that. Where's he from in Texas?
There's that great story. I don't know if it was Jeff used to tell it. Or
can I just say Saxon are a fucking great
They're
band.
fucking great band. But
days.
Biff, the Barnsley Big Teasers, as they were known, and Biff still lived in Barnsley. And there was this story, I'm sure it was Jeff used to tell it, that he had his gold discs in the window of his front room, which looked out onto the street,
So people go, who
lives there. Yeah.
Biff,
Singer of Saxon.
Is it Bifford? Byford?
I always said Byford, but I think he said Bifford, but
It
was a bit,
Bifford.
Biff Bifford made more sense.
Biff Byford. Is it Biff?
Biff and his wife. Actually, that was the one the greatest picture that we in the Kerrang photo library. Back in the day, before electronic photos, magazines used to actually have a photo library. So there was a room at the back of the office.
I know. I used to be in there every week researching.
So you researching. Yeah, so you get, and like every time the photos did a session, they'd leave some of the pictures in the photo library in the relevant file. And in the Saxon file was the glorious picture of Biff Byford holding a cup of tea, because tea was his drink, wasn't it? He was a big tea drink. Biff Byford holding a cup of tea while his wife washed his car. Even better than that, she had a broken arm.
You see, I knew that man. Respect.
What a man.
What a guy.
So we're in Spain with Biff and Lisa and Marino. Right. Lisa's husband, who was also our manager, who Lisa never let on that he was her husband, because all of the fans had to believe that Lisa was available, and Billy and the bassist and drummer Billy and Mark Kolk, who were these brothers from Liverpool. Billy is, and
they're always nicking.
There are a couple of Scully Scouts. Billy is now making a fortune in the number one Led Zeppelin tribute band, and he's Robert Plant. He's got the long hair, and I never knew this at the time. He's just playing bass for Lisa, but he's a great singer. Way better than Lisa.
What's the name of the...
They're called some. I can't remember. They're called like the Led Zeppelin Experience or something like that. I can't remember.
That's Jason Bonham's.
I don't know what they're called. They're called something to do with Led Zeppelin.
If you want to know, just look it up. Do you not do any research?
Just look it up. If you say, well, shall I give Billy a ring and see if I can come and see the show? Is that what you've got excited about?
I need you to conjure up for me a wonderful anecdote about one of the glamorous tours you did.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll tell you.
Tell me a story.
While you're doing that, so we go to Spain with Lisa, with Billy, with Marino, with Lisa's manager stroke husband, with Mark, and we do this tour, and we're following Saxon around. And Saxon have got the big bus, and we've got this little tiny bus, which is driven by a guy called Juan. And Juan was supposed to drive us from Barcelona to San Sebastian. And San Sebastian is at the other end of Spain to Barcelona. So basically we were trekking up through the whole middle of Spain. We were going to stop and play a gig in Madrid and then go on to San Sebastian. And in Barcelona, we have a tremendous time. It's a beautiful city. It's great. We're going out. We're living the life. We're part of the culture. And Lisa was the only person who said, I don't want to eat the local food. I don't want to have the local drink. I'm just going to stick to English stuff. So everywhere we went, she had to have chips and beans or whatever it was, whatever the local restaurant could dredge up in English fashion. So she's eating the English food. We're all having the Spanish food. We get to Madrid, she starts to feel a bit iffy. By the time we get to San Sebastian, she's in a terrible state with food poisoning because she's insisted on eating English food.
Is this Lisa?
This is Lisa.
So did you offer?
He's back from his.
Did you offer some assistance?
I really didn't, because by the time we got to San Sebastian, and it was that sort of end of tour, we'd had this horrible journey through the mountains, being driven by Juan in his van. Juan. Every time we asked him how far it was to San Sebastian, he just laughed. He just went ha 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 ha. As you're sort of tipping off the side of a mountain, So we get to San Sebastian, get to the gig, and Lisa, she was ill by this point, and she's on doing the first number, whatever it was, and I could see she was going to run off the stage to puke because we were at the side of the stage. She comes running off the side of the stage, reaches for the first glass of water that she can find, which you shouldn't do because in it were Biff Byford's singing teeth. And everyone thinks this story might somehow have been confected over the years, but no, it's true. Biff actually, he had some elements of false teeth. Whether they were all false, I'm not entirely sure. But he had a set of teeth that he sang with because they didn't have that sort of sibilant S, If you're doing Strangers in the Night, you don't want to whistle.
Stallions of the Highway.
You don't want to go, Stallions of the Highway. That's what you do. So she's going to puke up. She's going to, put your singing teeth in, Biff. That's what it was like.
See, that
there's Biff
title.
With the teeth, and they had a guitarist whose wig virtually revolved around his head.
That's right. He used to have the wig. But so is that where the rumour comes that Biff was going to do a solo album called Singing Teeth?
I think that probably made it into the story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The fact that Biff had singing teeth.
That reminds me of an on-the-road story. I've got about very similar situations with Thunder. And at the height of their thunderness. And there was some, party record company thing. This is in Canada or America or somewhere anyway. And it's one of those days when the record companies would really push the boat out, and it's all beautiful, and because it's America, there's loads of beautiful women and beautiful men and us oiks from this country, and and Harry, the drummer, Gary James, all right, Mick, the drummer, he pulls this gorgeous girl.
Wow.
And next thing, she's about 6'2", he's about 5'6". You know, they're holding hands, and off he goes. Everyone's going, "Look at Harry! Hey, go on, Harry! Hurry up, Harry!" You know. I don't think it's something that would happen to him every night. You know, not with Luke Morley in the group, who just was top birder, still is.
Yeah. Extraordinaire.
Birder extraordinaire.
Those skills never die.
Once a birder.
Always a birder.
Always
That's
a
what
birder.
I say.
Well, we are living proof of that, aren't we? You know, all our lives we've had to suffer the indignity of being surrounded
by very attractive women.
That's right. Yeah. So Harry goes off with this girl, and the next morning he turns up, and of course, you know, everybody's going, "Hey!" You know, but he looks genuinely a bit embarrassed.
Yeah.
And so he tells us that in the middle of the night, because you know everybody had a few to drink, he woke up in the middle of the night, you know, really, really thirsty. You know that thing you get if you had too much to drink and you wake up. Now you wouldn't know because in your
I'm an athlete. Yeah.
You
finely tuned,
your body
elite.
is an elite
temple. Yeah. But anyway, I believe you. You get very thirsty.
Apparently so. So he wakes up in the night burning with thirst. Nothing to drink, and he runs into the toilet to get the tap, and he sees a glass of water. So he just grabs it and necks it, and then back to bed. Gets up in the morning, and the girl's sort of looking perturbed. She's hunting around. She goes, "Did you touch that glass of water that was in the?" But he went, "Yeah, thank God." You know, I mean, because I had my contact lenses in it.
Oh.
And he had swallowed her contact lenses, and she absolutely fucking flipped out at him. Because she had to go straight to work.
Yeah.
Now she can't see. And how does she explain to the people at work the reason she's late is she spent the night with some rock musician she'd never met.
Who's drunk her contact lenses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow,
and then for the rest of the tour, people would literally say of Harry, he's got eyes in the back of his eyes.
You can see you coming from both ways. I've just remembered when you were telling that story. I've just remembered, and I promise to be the last thing I say about Lisa Dominique.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Are you still talking about Lisa?
When we went to Morecambe,
who she is, mate.
When we went to Morecambe. Guess who turns up in Morecambe at the Bullseye Roadshow and the rest of it? John Waite, the
one hit wonder.
Yeah, you know, I ain't missing you at all, missing you. 2-hit wonder actually, because he then joined some supergroup.
Well, no, 3 then, because he was in the Babies.
He was in the Babies.
He had Isn't It Time?
Yeah, and then he had I ain't missing you at all.
That was his big hit.
Missing you, and then he went into
That was his greatest.
What was the name of that? Was it Damn Yankees? No, it wasn't Damn Yankees.
Was big, something like
no,
that.
And they had one big. When I see you smile, that one.
Yeah,
it was a big hit in America.
No one knows.
Big hit in America.
No,
so John Waite came from Hull, which is where Lisa and Marino came from. Right. Kingston upon Hull. And John Waite rocks up at this gig, obviously thinking, I'm going to pull Lisa. He's got all the gear on. You imagine, like, John Waite's a big star. I mean, he was Missing You was a massive hit, as you say. And he's in the terms of the 50 people in that room in Morecambe, he's considerably the most famous person.
Apart from Jim Bowen, obviously.
Apart from Jim Bowen, who is represented by a cardboard cutout, but is nonetheless is there in spirit.
Hang on. And Jim Bowen's not even there.
He's not even there. He's a cardboard cutout.
It's
a road show. It's a road show. It's
I love this.
Yeah.
Never mind 3D images.
We get after the show. John Waite, it's like a bloody Benny Hill sketch. John Waite's chasing Lisa around the room. So she ends up pretending that I'm her boyfriend.
How unfortunate.
So she's sitting on my lap. She ends up sitting on my lap.
Oh, how awful.
And to get rid of John Waite. Yeah. So John Waite slung his hook.
And did you have to pretend to be her boyfriend?
I stopped pretending immediately afterwards. As I told you, I was going on holiday with my girlfriend the very next day.
Yeah, but you know what they
which
say.
I'm sure I did.
You know what they say? What happens in Morecambe stays in Morecambe.
They had that slogan before Las Vegas.
Okay, one last
But anyway,
question.
good.
Is it true though? That,
See, you
is
wanted
it
to
true-
stop talking about it, but now you want to talk about it.
Is it true that to this day you have a cardboard cutout of Lisa Dominique in your bedroom? It's true,
I do,
isn't it?
and John Waite as well, just to remind me
I
of how
have
good
Jim
it was.
Bowen.
Do you-
So listen. Let's return.
Let's rack it up. Let's
fur-
ramp it up. Let's get to the private
Yes,
jets and
yes,
the good stuff.
Yes, because growing up for me in the 70s was when I would first buy music papers, and so you would read about things like, you know, I was 15 when Bowie gave his farewell speech. You know, that seemed to say we will never tour again. I mean, I just thought, this bloke is wrong. I could not make any sense of that. But then you'd read about, like, say, Led Zeppelin, and they've got their own private plane. Or the Stones. I think the Stones, all those huge groups did. But you'd read that they would have. I mean, the Stones had, and Zeppelin actually, but the Stones and Zeppelin had, may have been the same guy, but had a doctor on the road.
Right, yeah.
And this is the early 70s.
A rock and roll doctor.
Well, it's not like now where you go, oh, he's got his nutritionist,
his trainer,
his psychotherapist.
Yeah.
They've got a tour doctor.
Yeah.
And apparently what they used to do at Zeppelin, they'd get on the private plane, the Starship, and they'd all literally line up at the seat where the doctor was, and he would open his doctor, you know, those old-fashioned doctor bags.
Yeah.
And out would come the pills and the
Oh.
You just take 2 of those.
Yeah, you'll be all
gone
right.
for 3 days. Gone, yeah. Zeppelin used to also have one of there are many tour assistants, not that snoring pug, but for when they'd snorted too much cocaine, one of these beautiful assistants would get this little bit of snuff, perfume snuff, which she would feed to them off her a bodily part, and they would sniff that, and then they would get a little hanky doused in Courvoisier and dab it around their nostrils.
Because that's a known medical cure for a cocaine overdose.
Well, not so much overdose, as taking off the edge.
Okay, yeah.
You know, when your nose is hurting.
Right.
You know.
How will they take?
Yeah,
okay.
put it away. Put the cocaine away now. Let's tell more stories. So I grew up reading about that sort of thing.
Yeah,
thinking,
proper stuff.
Yeah, and also you'd read about Keith Moon riding a motorcycle down a hotel corridor.
Yeah.
Or somebody driving a white Rolls. I don't know if this even ever happened, but the mythology was a white Rolls Royce into the swimming pool.
Yeah.
That's what you did.
Yeah.
And I just used to think, I cannot wait to one day somehow get into that world. I didn't know how I'd ever get there. But by the time I was on the road with the Lurkers, punk had come in. And suddenly it just wasn't cool to admit that's...
The excess of the 70s is exactly what they were against.
And exactly what I was there for.
Yeah.
I wanted to be in a hotel room.
Yeah, with Fleetwood Mac doing the... Yeah.
Carrying a television set to the balcony and throwing it over and then going...
Yeah. Hilarious, yeah.
But I never quite got to that stage. Did do a bit of smashing up, but by the time I got to... When I went on tour, say, with Marillion in the mid-80s, who were a big band in Britain at the time.
And fantastic fun at that point as well.
They were fantastic fun at that point.
Yeah.
And they had taken the throwing the telly out the window to a new level. One of them used to work as a TV engineer.
Oh, it was Pete, wasn't it?
It was.
The bass player,
and he had this thing where... and these days, our phones, our devices, we're so used to it. But in those days, there'd be one telly per house or one telly per hotel room. And that was your only form of entertainment, or what do you do at 11 at night, you know. And he would fix it so that in everybody's room, it was called the Upside Down Club. The telly in everybody's room, the picture would be upside down. Because don't forget, this is the 80s. There's no Game Boy or Xbox or whatever.
It's just songs of praise upside down.
Tuesday night in the middle of nowhere, you know. You put the telly on, giggling, drunk or stoned, and watch the telly upside down. And it went on all tour. And then by the end of the tour, John Arneson, who we've mentioned before, got this bill. And he went, man, what's this fucking... There was a whole chain of hotels all over the UK sending bills for 6 or 7 televisions that had been ruined because the pictures were now upside down on them. And Pete Travis goes, it's all right, just tell them to turn them up, turn them around.
Yeah.
So you could turn the telly upside down and watch it.
That's what I would do. Yeah.
And another group, Split Ends, who were in '81. I went on the road with them, and for about a month when they toured Europe, one of the worst tours I ever did. No one had ever heard of them in Europe, so they were doing, the Sydney Opera House in Australia. Even in America, they were pretty big. In the UK, they had a name. In Europe, crickets, nothing, bales of tumbleweed going down the main street, and so it was a dreadfully miserable tour. But we always seemed to be staying in hotels on like the 42nd floor, and of course you can't open those windows. I only open a little bit.
Yeah.
And they had this thing for years.
You know why that is, don't you? Yeah.
In case you throw a telly out the window.
Exactly. 42 stories up. Yeah.
I remember being very disappointed. Yeah. But they had this thing where they would make paper aeroplanes and sail them out of the windows. And banal and drippy as that sounds, and Split Ends loved their trucks, these paper airplanes were what kept us entertained. And you would start to make, like custom made ones and write on them and da-da-da-da-da. And some would just plummet straight to the earth. You'd be going, no, it's going to hit that man on the head, quick, hide. Or some would just go, probably still out there right now. Still out there.
Still going around the globe. Yeah. Yeah, but I before you jump onto the really big private jets and all the rest of it, Lisa Dominic, no. Germans, right? With Kerrang at the... he's laughing. I'm not going to talk about Lisa Dominic.
Any more than I already have over several podcasts. You're single-handedly reviving
I'm going to talk about Germans.
She's back.
I'm going to say, yes, she's back on the road with Jim Bowen, who's, I don't know if he's even alive. But,
by the way, I do love this cardboard cutout idea. A couple of years ago,
just keeps your career alive
3D
long after
tour
you've
by
gone.
Dio.
Yeah,
they missed a trick.
Just done a cardboard cutout, shone a light on it.
Cardboard cutout.
Yeah,
and just play the music.
Yeah. As I understand it, that's pretty much what it was like.
I thought it was really good.
Yeah, no, it was great. Yeah. Wendy told me.
You leave Wendy alone.
I'm not going to talk. I'm going to talk about the German experience, because there was a period at the late 80s, the centre of the music universe was LA, but heavy metal, as well as being big in the UK, it was always huge in Germany.
Yeah.
It was, I think at the time it was the second biggest market after America, certainly for touring bands and for record sales as well. But yeah, I mean, it's a huge country, there's a lot of people live there, and they love their metal.
Germans,
mainly Germans. They loved thrash, they love, all that, so they loved the real kind of thrash stuff.
Of course they did. These metal machines.
I'll tell you what, it's a couple of the weirdest things. I went on the road with a band called Railway, who are a German band, okay.
Hang on.
Railway.
I went on the road with a German band called Railway.
I did. Yeah.
I think you were clearly on the right track.
Ray Palmer did the photos.
You're on the right track.
Ray Palmer did the photos. Guess where we went? Guess where we went to do the pictures? You've guessed. You're right, Coco. We went to the Hauptbahnhof, the main station in Munich, to do the photos.
Oh, is that the Nazi station?
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Can you kick him?
I can't. He just wants to sit down. He just wants to join in. He's excited by the thought of German heavy metal. But
go on.
He's now been lifted up to the microphone just so he can make any announcement that needs making.
Shut up if I do. Give me a kiss. Good boy.
Yeah. So
not you, John.
We went to me and Ray Palmer went to Munich to start this road trip with Railway. And
it sounds like you're on the right track, though.
Yeah. Hey, there's nothing like that in the piece. There were no railway jokes in the piece.
Oh, so no different stations.
No.
It was a different platform in those days.
We were giving them a new platform in Kerrang to
get them on the right track.
Get their career on the straight and narrow.
Let the journey begin.
Yeah. To give them, try and conduct them in the right way. But enough of that. We got to Munich like really late at night, and Railway's manager or whoever turned up to pick me and Ray up, and he took us. He said, "I'll take you to the hotel," And he started taking us out. I'm sure you've been to Munich. It's a lovely city, but it's huge. Yeah. It's a vast city. It's a kind of sprawling place, and he starts driving us, and we're driving for hours, and we're going outside Munich, and we're starting to think, me and Ray, we don't know this guy. It's like, this is not a band we're kind of, we're like John Arneson or something. If Arnie's driving to the hotel, you're going to get to a hotel. And all of a sudden, we're in the Black Forest, and this guy's driving, and he's not telling us where. And he goes, "I'm taking you to a new hotel that my friend owns, and it's not opened yet." And we're like, Christ in hell.
Was it a railway hotel?
Yeah. We're like, what the hell is it? And I'm looking at Ray and he's looking at me and we're like, bloody hell, And we go further and further out. It's taking longer and longer. And it's getting really late, rock and roll. Do you know it's past 11? So it's like the middle of the night and we're going and I
haven't eaten.
Yeah. And we're going to this your friend's hotel, which isn't
open.
Yeah. And the reason he goes, he wants to try it out on a couple of people. Right. And we get there and it was like this sort of hunting lodge, it was all wooden, and it was like sort of like a bit like, I'm sure in the day, in the beautiful light of the Munich dawn, it was like Heidi would stay there, Heidi, Heido, like that. But at night it was sinister, and you go, and there's no one there. And we go in, and there's this one guy there waiting for us, Yeah, and he goes, we're not open yet. And it was lovely inside. He goes, you stay wherever you want, pick a room. So we picked up a bit, and it turned out to be really good. And then he goes, meet me in the bar. So we go down to the bar, and obviously, there's no one there, so we just pour in whatever drinks we want. And then these two girls turn up that he'd just arranged for us to turn up.
Really?
Just these two German girls for us to pass the time
railway
with.
Tickets?
They didn't have uniforms or anything. They didn't ask for any tickets. But it was great.
So
it was a great night.
They want, John?
I don't know. They just wanted to sit around
just
at
music
the new
fans?
hotel. I've told you, Mick, we were trying out the hotel. We were seeing what it was like. We were seeing whether it was fit for guests. And the next day, we woke up in the Heidi High Hotel and we went on the road with Railway, which by all accounts, I think was completely without incident, as I remember.
We seem to have skipped a crucial part of that story.
Going,
You're
a gentleman never tells.
Well, that's why I'm asking you. You're in this bar with these girls, and the next morning,
the manager stayed with us the whole time to make sure there was no foul play.
And where did the girls stay? Did they have
they
their
stayed
own?
at the hotel. Well, you could pick a room, Mick. That's all I'll say.
Did they
you could
pick
pick
your
a room.
room?
I'm sure they could have picked any room they wanted.
So,
and of course,
did they pick your room?
Well, I don't know. I'm sure they didn't. I'm sure it was probably like most English teams in Germany. Had a shot but missed, came home empty-handed from the Railway World Cup.
Was it a penalty shootout?
And then I remember being on the road, last German thing, I remember being on the road with Halloween. Do you remember Halloween? Who were managed by Rod Smallwood.
Here's a group we've heard of.
Well, I did go on the road with, eventually progressed, having survived the railway experience. You're good with German, man. Do you want to go on the road with Halloween in America? Yeah, all right, yeah. And Ray Palmer was the photographer. And we're on the tour, on the proper actual tour bus. And all their singer wanted to talk about was photography with Ray. And we just sat there going, and he's going on. And he picks up Ray's camera and he goes, is this good for taking photos? Or something like that. Ray goes, yeah, it's a camera, And he goes, so if I'm in a bush, I could use this and I would get a good photo. And we're like, if you're in a bush, mate, come on. You what?
Outside a window.
Yeah. And it was like that. It was like he wanted to take these kind of covert photos from bushes and through windows and
He
stuff.
probably was just a bird watcher.
I think that's what it was.
I think he was just.
That's what I tell
probably a
myself.
hobby.
As he was later arrested as the Munich cannibal.
What do they call bird watchers?
Die Heisenkrausenstrasser or something.
Das pervert. Yes, well,
Yeah.
that's lovely. I must say that's all lovely.
And that doesn't even count the time I went with Rammstein to wherever it was.
Let's
Brixton.
stay in Germany as we wander down the
That was
John's
Rammstein. That was it.
memory
That was in
lane.
Brixton. Actually, we ended up in Brixton.
Rammstein in a Brixton.
Rammstein, I think you'll find.
Okay.
If you
You're
get
one
it
of
right,
those,
yeah,
are
I'm
you?
one of those.
You're one of those.
I'm one of those because they actually were probably. I think I slightly digress at the moment. I think they're the best heavy metal band in the world at the moment by some distance. Their live show is the most sensational thing I've seen for many years. The show at Brixton, the singer made his entrance by coming down from the ceiling dressed as a hunchback. Like, if you don't want to see that, mate, you don't want to see
sure
heavy
it wasn't
metal.
Iron Maiden.
No, this was
Bruce
Rammstein.
has got that whole
This was-
hunchback
yeah.
thing down pretty good.
And then by the time they got up, last time I saw them was at the O2, and that show was utterly sensational. I mean, it was insane, but sensational. And they were terrifically interesting people. They were all from East Germany. They were all born in East Germany. They're all they're older than you think. They didn't make it till later in life because they grew up in East Germany behind the Iron Curtain. And I had to interview them through translators that Dante Benuto organised. Dante, our former editor at Kerrang, who became their label manager. And so it was all through translators. And the singer, who's this guy called Till Lindemann, who used to be something like an Olympic swimmer, Till didn't do interviews, but the rest of them did interviews. And they were talking about what life was like in East Germany. When they first formed a band, you had to go in front of a committee and play one song, and they would tell you what sort of a band you were and where you could play.
Really?
Yeah. And they got all of their...
So did they look at them and say,
you'll
be our heavy metal band?
This guy,
There'll be flames, hunchbacks,
Richard,
big
who's
noise,
a keyboard
flames.
player or something. This guy Richard, he was a lovely guy. And he goes, we thought we sounded like Judas Priest. He goes, and then when they finally heard Judas Priest, he goes, we realised we were rubbish. but they were really, and they were very interesting. And this is going to be completely, non-road story, but they. One of the reasons I think they're fantastic is they've never tried to translate their lyrics in English. I think they've only ever done it once or twice, and it doesn't work because the German language is actually very metal and very beautiful. And they were saying that there's actually a huge difference between East German and German, and some of the words they use for it. The one I remember most is they've got an album called Sehnsucht, which means hunger, but it also means longing in East German, which I think is lovely. It's sort of this beautiful word. Means hunger, but it means longing, and you kind of really get that,
Well,
and
you
so yeah, I do. And they're great. So they're this great contrast between sort of insane heavy metal on stage when the singer's dressed as a hunchback, and they're doing that classic third German thing of, they love a big dildo that fires out spunk, on stage.
Sorry, hang on.
I've seen numerous German
I
bands who've done
I kind of tuned out
Yeah,
halfway into that.
Numerous German
but
bands
came
do
back
that.
in on dildos shooting out.
They did
spunk.
all that stuff. They don't
What do you
do it
mean
anymore.
they did all that
They
stuff?
don't
I've
do
never
it anymore.
seen that on
So,
stage.
Did you? There was another German band called
I
Sado.
don't remember Lemmy
There was
bringing on a dildo.
There's a German band called
firing-
Sado who basically, they basically end up having sex on stage.
Hang on,
And they used to do
Sado.
Sado.
How do you spell-
Sado.
Let me just write that down.
Sado.
And they're on YouTube.
Yeah,
Or did you say Pornhub?
something like that. The Germans were obsessed with all that stuff.
Can I just say?
Go on.
I'll never forget the Rammstein song. Is it Mutter?
Mutter, mother, yeah.
I used to
yeah.
say I can't, and then I'd hear some other group that would sound a lot like them, and I'd go, I can't believe it's not Mutter.
You see, that is why he's at the top of the podcast tree.
Right, I'm going to get now into the big stuff.
Yeah.
Private planes,
Ooh,
limousines.
that's what you want.
Now, all that said, I have been on the private plane a few times, and it's actually, by the time you get to the private plane, the band itself are way beyond All for One and One for All.
Yeah.
We're having a good time tonight. Now, I know that Zeppelin and all those people treated private planes like the immense novelty and toy that they were in those days. The stewardesses would be, flight attendants would be essentially groupies. And it was really, to be honest, in the 70s, if you got on an aeroplane, domestic flight in America in the 70s, the flight attendants did look like groupies anyway. It's all tiny skirts and cleavage. Nothing wrong with that, you know.
That was just the blokes.
In Frisco.
Yeah.
But by the time you get to the 80s, the first time I went on a private plane was with Styx.
Oh, really?
On their
good
Paradise Theatre tour.
Those the noted rock and roll animals. You know it's you, babe. Whenever I get weary and I've had enough, feel like giving up. You know it's you, Mick. You just had Dennis DeYoung whispering in your ear.
Then at the end it'd be, how did it go? There was that little I don't know.
What a, yeah.
Apparently that was the demo. And when they tried to record it, normally it didn't come out with the same magic.
Official scoop. This is what Dennis DeYoung whispered in your ear on the private plane.
Well,
Mick,
Dennis...
Let me tell you about the time I wrote
had
Babe.
his own room at the back of the plane, right?
Did he?
Yeah. So, and Dennis would always dress on the road. Okay, we're in Texas. We did Houston, San Antonio, and Dallas, and which is like you got to fly to each town on the private plane. And Dennis would be in these enormous, amazing hotels. You know, like the lobby is bigger than a normal hotel. You know, and he used to walk around. It was in February, fair enough, but it was Texas. It was warm. He would walk around in this quite Germanic, actually, this black leather long coat with a belt, and he would wear a suit and tie, and he would be surrounded by flunkies that had to walk a bit behind him. So you've got, was it Tommy Shaw and JJ, the other guy, the monster guitarist, two guitarists, cute Tommy Shaw. Yeah. Oh, the girls love me. And then JJ Young, was it? JJ Young, he was like, wee. He could have been in the Scorpions. He's one of those guys, moustache, you know what I mean?
Handbag.
But Dennis also had a tash, but he was the one who wrote, it's you,
babe. Yeah.
So Tommy and JJ wrote, is it JY? JK?
Tommy Shaw and someone,
the other
wasn't
geezer.
it? Yeah.
They'd be out there rocking.
Yeah.
But Dennis would come up with a conceptual journey idea to this particular album. I thought what we would do is, you know, all this kind of stuff. So I'm on the plane with the lads, all in T-shirts and jeans, necking drinks.
Except for Dennis, who's got his
Dennis
leather.
is in his private room, and they're like, Dennis says he's ready for his interview now. If you just knock on the... So I go up to the back of the plane, I'm like, come... You know, so, so I go in, and he's sat at a table in his suit and tie. The big leather stormtrooper coat is there on the back, and it's a 3-course meal. And I'm supposed to interview him over the course, and it was ribs. Right? He's got fucking ribs. So he's got this. He's like delicately having a little nibble, and he's got this big serviette. And I'm what am I? 22 or something.
You've got a T-shirt.
I've got the same T-shirt I've been wearing for 3 days, which has beer and cigarettes.
He's wearing it now.
I immediately like.
If you could see him now, he's got
like,
it on.
I don't allow smoking in here. I'm like, really? Oh God! Wow! Fucking hell! Prima donna. He put out the fake. So I'm necking beers, and of course, I have a go at the ribs. They just literally just go all over me.
Yeah.
And Dennis is like, so you see, when I first came up with the concept for, and I'm like, oh fucking hell! Oh, pass me that thing! Oh, would you care for a napkin? And then he goes, you look like you could do with a shower. I went, yeah. Do you have one on the plane? So we do the interview. I then leave him there, go back in, and everybody knows what sort of ordeal it must have been, and they're all laughing at me. But we get to the hotel, and it was like out of Spinal Tap. Later that same day, sitting in the lobby, waiting to get into the limos to go to the gig, here comes Dennis in the full stormtrooper outfit with that hair, moulded hair that looked like a hat. And I'm sitting down, and he literally comes over, and when you just had this interview a couple of hours, and I'm like, wait, Dennis. He literally just fucking blanked me. Carried on walking.
Rightly so.
Yeah, it was kind of like, I'm sorry, I just have to sit over here and wait for the limo.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, what's wrong with him?
What's up with him? Yeah.
Oh, he's not cool.
No.
But it may have been me that wasn't cool.
Yeah.
But Def Leppard on their private plane, they had it was the last night of their Hysteria tour. So they've been on the road for 14 months, whatever it is. And we're flying to the very final show. So as a treat, the captain, because they've been on this plane every day for months, so the captain, as a special treat on the final flight,
could just loop the loop.
Yes,
no, I
yes.
was joking. I thought,
but before he does loop the loop, which is making me literally want to puke, because I've obviously been pissed for 48 hours at this point. But then, for a laugh, he does a nosedive.
Oh, for a joke.
Yeah.
Like, you're all going to die.
Yeah, and Joe Elliott's like, ha, 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 oh, Jim, or whatever his name is, go on, mate, hey! Yeah. But we are literally, John, you're facing the floor. And you can hear
that's my worst nightmare. Yeah.
And things are shaking, and I'm like, and Cliff Bernstein's sitting next to me, and I'm going to him, make them stop, make them stop. I was literally just about to say, we're all going to die.
Yeah.
When Cliff goes, okay, Jim, I think not everybody's enjoying
we've
this.
got the idea now.
Steve Clark, I don't even know
Asleep.
if he knew what we were doing. He was reading a magazine and no cognizance of anything that's going on. And afterwards I said to him, fucking hell, Steve, that was a bit hairy, wasn't it? What? Hey? I said, when the pilot... Oh, did he? Oh. Because that was kind of Steve. He never really connected with whatever reality the rest of you were in. You know? So that was a
laugh.
That was a laugh. I have got another private plane, a few others, but one that really sticks in my mind is going from London to Newcastle, which is way up north if you don't know England, north of London, with Huey Lewis and the News, who at this point was that first breakthrough album they had.
Hip to be square.
That's it. And
I can do them all.
I want a new drug.
Sticks, Huey Lewis. I'll do them all.
I want a new drug.
I'm hip to be square.
Yeah, we're singing different songs.
I know, but
can you at least join in on the...
Huey had a certain kind of...
Yeah, hip to be square, I want a new drug. But the big hit was, and this is it.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Massive in America, but he comes over here, and of course it hasn't duplicated the success over here yet. But they're on the Tube.
The TV show,
which was recorded in
Newcastle.
So as part of the story, I fly up with them, and they said it's a private plane to Newcastle, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, I can do that, And we get to the airport, and it is a privately hired plane, but it's not a private. You're not flying private. It's a propeller plane.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like the aeronautical equivalent of a transit van.
Yeah.
You literally can. You got one seat on this side, one seat on this side. You can't stand up in it, and literally at the front of the bus is the pilot, and as he starts up the engine, he goes, "Hello lads." He goes, "I'm Captain Luck." He goes, "Let's hope that's not, jinxing it for you." I mean, everybody's going, "Oh no, we're gonna die. We're gonna die, Captain Luck." So we take off. Have you been on a propeller plane?
Not a propeller, but a very small one. I'll tell you in a minute, but go on.
Horrible.
Yeah.
If you really...
It's like being inside a tin can. People don't realise.
It's
like,
awful.
It's like being inside a crappy old 1970s car when you can hear everything.
Except your
own voice.
in the air.
Except your own voice, because the pressure is so bloody intense. Yeah.
And also you've got these propellers right by your head on the other side of the thin capsule or whatever it is. And so we're literally still ascending. On a propeller, you don't ascend like a jet. A jet just goes up like that. Propellers sort of go up, they come down a bit, they flatten a bit, they wobble, they go up another bit. Oh, no, can't make that down a bit, Fucking awful. And in the middle of this, Captain Luck goes over his shoulder and goes, anyone want a drink? And so he's like, yeah. So he literally, like, there's a silver box on wheels.
Cool box.
But kind of like a metal flight case.
Yeah.
He kind of undoes the top of that, and it's on wheels, and he just pushes it down because you can't walk.
Yeah. So
you're literally leaning over into this box and going, oh, cold beer. Who's got the bottle opener? Okay. And yes, that was yes.
Yeah. No, I was on one of those really small planes. I'm pretty sure that these things might have conjoined in my mind, but I'm sure it was something to do with Wasp, and we were going on the road with Wasp, and it was in Texas because they had that song, I'm blind in Texas. And there's a bit where he does...
Isn't he from Texas?
He might be. I'm not sure. There's a bit...
Didn't they used to call him Tex?
There's a bit in the song. There's a bit in the song where he starts going San Antonio on the way to Mexico, and he names all these places in Texas. Anyway, irrelevant. This plane was hooking us up, so it wasn't the Wasps weren't on it. From memory, we were just going to the tour, and it was an internal flight. It was a little private company. Yeah, tiny little plane, and it's banking. Because the pilot thinks everyone loves it, Because they always think that. They think, you want to see the coast, so I'll fly down the coast.
No, I don't want to see
I don't. I just want to get there and get out of this horrible thing that's terrifying. But the thing that happened that sticks in my mind was Wasp was shooting a video, and it was for this song called Forever Free. So you can look the video up.
Was that a ballad?
Riding in the wind, forever free. That's how it goes. And it was in LA, and it was up in the hills.
There's nothing
somewhere.
more heartening than Blackie Lawless singing a power ballad.
Yeah. And it was up in the hills somewhere. And the night before, we'd been in the Rainbow with Blackie Lawless, and he's sitting there. And I remember this really clearly. He was sitting in those sort of horseshoe-shaped booths, those red booths. And he's looking around at the girls, and he's going to me, fucked her. And one of these girls is giving him absolute daggers, right? Just like staring death rays at him. So have you seen Blackie? Have you, this was alarming to me. And I, have you that girl over there? Probably fucked her and ignored her. And like 2 minutes later, she's sitting on his lap, and they're just like snogging away, and it was insane. But anyway, this was when Rod Small was managing them. And he goes, we'll go to video shoot, And it was at night in the hills in LA, somewhere out over the back, into the canyons. We went into the canyons, go up and down. And it was, if you can look the video up on YouTube, and you'll see there's this sort of campfire type set, because they were forever free.
Right.
Blackie's probably gone there, he's motor, and he's given it loads. He's in all the leathers, and he was a big guy, Blackie. He's sort of about 6 foot 2 or 3, isn't he? Like all the hair and everything, and the boots, and probably the cob piece and all the rest of it. And and because it's America, right? And it's the middle of the night, and there's these campfire shots. I mean, this is the middle of nowhere, so all you can see is there's campfire, and then there's all the video lights from the film crew, like shining on it. So you might as well be a UFO, I mean, everyone can see this thing. All of a sudden, we're standing there, and Blackie's got his guitar ready, and we hear this pichoo. Someone starts shooting at us, and we're like, Christ, So we're all. This was the funny thing is we're all cowering in the production. Blackie as well, and he's like, it was like women and children first, and Blackie's at the front, sprinting for the door, because he's obviously
he lives wild and free.
You're not forever free. And I remember standing next to Rod, and going, "Oh fucking hell," And it just turned out to be some nutcase. I don't know. It was like an air rifle or something. It was nothing serious, but it was funny,
Okay, let's tell some road stories then. Okay, so I remember being with Iron Maiden on their World Slavery tour.
Yeah,
and they would go on for fucking ever. So you'd see them in 3 months later. You'd go back and they'd still be on the road. So I just remember getting to LA and. They had a lovely tour manager called Tony Wiggins, whose previous job had been the tour manager for Gilbert O'Sullivan.
Right.
And Tony used to walk around the hotel in a cardigan and slippers. and they'd be like, fuck it, fuck it. Oh, okay, Steve. Yes, old boy. Yes, And we get to LA, and LA's where all the kind of wives and girlfriends, because they're going to do their shows.
That was the show they liked to come to because it was a great place to go.
Exactly.
Good shopping,
nice weather.
Beverly Hills, nice hotel.
And all the bands would always arrange for the girls, the wives and girlfriends, to go to the same show. Otherwise, you'd have wives and girlfriends turning up of their own volition.
You might not want them to turn up.
You definitely don't want them to turn up.
No.
But Nico McBrain, a drummer. What? He's got an American girlfriend. I think he later married. I don't know. But anyway, we get to LA, and at the Sunset Marquee, they were suites. So you'd have like a little lounge and a bedroom. These days, even more so, but back then, and so they've all booked an extra sort of nice room for their wives and girlfriends.
Yeah.
And Nico's American girlfriend, I can never remember her name because he always called her his sweet pea.
Maybe that was her name.
And I remember him saying to Tony at the reception desk, Ross is there. Ross is pushed to the front. And Tony's going, Ross, can I just check the band in before? Ross is like, oh, fuck shit. Right, for fuck's sake. Yeah. So, and everybody's kind of going, hey, Tony, did you get me? I didn't get the, because Mrs. is coming in. He's going, yeah, all right, don't worry. I need 2 keys. Yeah, all right, I'll do it. And Nico's going, Tony, where's the key for my sweet pea? And Tony's going, I'll take care of your sweet pea in just a second.
Yeah.
Just give me a moment to sort Steve Harris out,
Yeah.
So he does all this. And I'm in Tony's room a bit after having a cup of tea, just chatting. And suddenly there's a bang on the door. Sorry, Pug. Tony! Tony, Nico! You fucking door, you fucking cunt! Tony goes to the goes, Nico, what's the matter, old boy? He goes, have you seen my fucking room? And Tony goes, well, no, I haven't seen your room. Come here. So I kind of wander along. And Nico drags him in. He goes, what's this? He goes, I can't bring my sweet pea into this, you fucking cunt. And Tony's like, it looks like everybody's room. Yeah, well, that ain't good enough for my sweet pea. Now you go and fucking sort it out. I'm looking at Tony going, wow.
Yeah.
Day in the life, eh?
Yeah.
But for years afterwards, whenever Ross and I were away, we would always talk about, and meet Joe Elliott with his wife. He goes, is that your sweet pea?
Yeah.
Sweet pea. And all the bands would pick it up from us. So suddenly everybody you worked with was talking about my
sweet pea. Yeah, yeah.
So there was that. The Sunset Marquee, all the bands used to stay there when they were on the road. And I remember me and Ross would be
all the big bands, all the good bands.
All the good bands.
Yeah.
Ross and I'd be by the pool day after day. And Ross just had this constant line of fun going on. And I remember, do you remember a guy called, what was his name? Something Sexton? Charlie Sexton?
Oh, Oh, I do. Yeah, sort of
He
briefly.
he had like one big album in
Yeah,
the 80s. He was
yeah.
married to Carleen Carter,
Right.
and he ended up becoming Bob Dylan's guitarist.
Right.
But in the mid 80s, he had one album in America that really did well. And he was an amazing looking guy, really good looking, always head to toe in leathers.
Like yourself.
And maybe
They couldn't tell him apart. This is going to be the story. In the Sunset Market, people kept coming up to Mick and Charlie, you good-looking fucker.
I'll go, you leave my
sweet pea alone.
And I just remember Ross would get more and more annoyed because the waiters would serve the famous people first. And I remember Charlie Sexton walking by the pool and in his gear. And Ross just out of nowhere going, "Oi, what time are you on stage there?" And it was like 10 a.m. Yeah.
He's so fantastically horrible, isn't he?
He is. Or he'd be going, "Oi, leave him. Stop serving the famous people. His last album was a stiff. He's over." So, but I'm trying to think. I mean, I'm trying to think of, the worst trip I ever had away.
Oh yeah.
But there were so many, and then you get told about things. I mean, Doc McGee, famously now the manager of Kiss and many others, but back then the manager of Bon Jovi, Motley, Scorpions for a while, Skid Row. And he told me a story not so long ago about touring with Skid Row that first year, the first time they went to Japan, for instance. And Sebastian Bach, the singer, he's just a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
So Doc has got his younger brother Scott McGee handling the day to day.
Yeah.
And and he said, and he goes, Scott was amazing. Scott invented full contact management to do with Sebastian. He goes, typical. He goes, we're just leaving Japan. The plane takes off. We're all in first class. And Sebastian is hang on, let me get this right. I may have buggered this story. Sorry. I can't remember the beginning of the story, but anyway, Sebastian's causing a lot of trouble. So I think I fucked this story.
He's just screwed the story.
I've screwed the story.
I tell you what, talking of stories other people told. I remember Ray Palmer telling me about going on the road, because I spent quite a lot of time with Ray. And he came out with these mad stories. And they went, I think it was him and Malcolm. Malcolm Dome, yeah. They went to cover a festival in somewhere like Louisiana. And it was going to be sort of 30, 40,000 people. I'm trying to think of the band they were with. Might have been the Scorpions even. Someone like that. And they do this ridiculous kind of road trip they're going all through Louisiana, these backwoods and everything. At one point, the bus breaks down. So it wasn't that big a band. It wouldn't have been the Scorpions. It was a slightly smaller type band. The bus breaks down. And they stop at this garage. And it's like in the middle of, good old Boysville or somewhere. And so all these people, these hillbillies come out of the garage.
From the hills.
Yeah, and it is like the hills have eyes, and they're going, "You boys need some help?" It's a bit like that. And our bus is breaking. We'll have that fixed for you in no time. Why don't you come up here on the porch and have a beer or whatever? So you're not Ray's like, he's like, "Oh, yeah, well, I don't mind if I do," So he's up there. Ray's probably charming them with his usual stories, And I remember saying it started to rain. It started to rain, pissing down, like really, really, and in the way it does in the American South. And out of the kind of surrounding undergrowth around this gas station in the middle of nowhere, they managed to stop it. So these big bullfrogs came hopping out of the undergrowth, and the kids of the people who ran the garage, so they start running over. And they jumping on the bullfrogs and squashing them, which is horrible. And Ray's like, "Oh, I don't think you should be doing that, darling." And he said that, and it was like, you don't tell our kids what to do. And the guy just turned around to them and said, "We fixed your van. Think you should be on your way now." And they all had to get back in the van and drive off, and they were glad to, because it was a bit kind of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And the upshot was they got to the festival. It was like 30,000 people and all the rest of it. 12 people there. Ray said he ended up consoling the man who'd bought the hamburger concession. he had like a refrigerated unit with about 20,000 hamburger patties or whatever it was. Go, oh, do you want one?
Well, America is the place to meet crazy people if you're touring. Oh. My very, very first trip to America was with Black Sabbath. And again, I dreamed of going to America, and here I am with Sabbath. And we're in New York.
What year was this? Was this with Ozzy or with Ronnie?
No, Ronnie Dio,
yeah.
1980.
Yeah.
And the Heaven and Hell tour.
Probably Ronnie's first tour with them, was it?
It was.
Yeah.
It was the Black and Blue tour. So it was
Blue Oyster Cult. Yeah.
And I'd never been to New York. I'd never been to Madison Square Garden. But anyways, 2 shows, and I God knows how it all worked out. But I'm in the limo with Tony Iommi going to the gig. And it's literally just me and Tony and the tour manager, Paul Clark, and everybody else has their own limo. And to get into the back of, or the dressing room area or the backstage area of Madison Square Garden, you inevitably go down the side of the building, but there's a special gate, and you have to press no mobile phones. You have to press. Yes, it's Tony Iommi. And they're buzzing this gate, and no one's coming. And quite soon, the limo starts to be surrounded by crazy New York Black Sabbath fans, and Paul Clark has to put the window down because he's trying to talk to the intercom.
Yeah.
And he's like trying to talk to the intercom. Like, there's Black Sabbath, open the fucking door. Yeah. And this kid, he was about 19, but this big kind of crazy New York kid, literally shoves the upper half of his body into the limo. And he's looking at Iommi going, "Hey, Tony, man!
Yeah.
Tony, man! You remember me, man? You remember me, man?" And Iommi's looking at him going, "No, I don't fucking remember you." And he's like, "You know me, man. I'm your brother, man. I'm your brother.
Oh,
you abandoned me. I'm your brother, man." Trying to touch him, man. And Paul Clark's like, "Yeah, we fucking remember you, all right."
Yeah.
Smack. Bloke's like, ah. And as the window's going up, we can hear us, "I'm your fucking brother, man. I'm your fucking brother, man." Same gig.
Jesus.
Same gig the next day outside that. We were staying at the what's the big in New York? The one
Parker.
No. This is beyond. No, this is beyond that. This is
Trump Tower,
where royalty would stay. What's it fucking called? Oh, my brain. Anyway, the big Kahuna, and we're outside, and there's just drug dealers everywhere. It's in Manhattan.
Yeah.
What's it called? My brain. But there's one drug dealer with a wooden leg, and he keeps all his drugs in the wooden leg.
Because the police will never look
Never
there.
thought of that. No. Boy, he got it. Yeah. Wow, you know. So what's it called?
I don't know.
Whatever.
The Hilton, the Paris Hilton.
Way beyond that. It's like where Elizabeth Taylor stays.
Right.
You know? And this guy goes, "Hey, man."
The Ritz Carlton.
No.
I don't know. I'm just saying hotels. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's
nice. Like the Taj Mahal. You know, it's one of, if you say it, you'll know it.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Hey, man, you with the Stones?" I'm like, no, Sabbath. Yeah. "Hey, man, Sabbath, that's some crazy shit." And starts to undo his wooden leg.
Oh, God.
Shake it all out onto the pavement. And naturally, I made my excuses. And the leg.
Yeah,
I said, "I'm English."
He said, "Could you give these to Tony?"
He's like, "Ozzy, man, he's far fucking out, man. Ozzy, say hi to Ozzy." And I'm like, "Ozzy's not in the group."
Yeah, no, it's Ronnie now. You'd like Ronnie.
Yeah, yeah.
Come and meet Ronnie.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
But also, I think one of the best kind of on the roads I did was actually a year ago when I went on the Kiss cruise.
Oh, I'd love to do that. And I don't know why.
Fantastic. I was slightly dreading it.
Yeah.
I'd never been on a cruise liner, so I imagined just a big boat.
Like a ferry, but
a bit bigger.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, it's going to be day and night loud music. It'd be like going to...
I'm not going to be able to go to bed.
No, exactly. I think it'd be like being at Donington.
Yeah. But
you know, you can't even
permanently
for about 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
24. And you can't even get in your car and say, "I just need
Yeah.
to fuck off for a couple of hours,"
Yeah.
because you're on a boat.
Yeah.
And I'm imagining it, you know,
That's the
tipping
problem
in the
with
sea.
it. Yeah.
That's the problem with being on a boat, is you're on a fucking boat.
Yeah.
So the idea is the boat sails from Miami, and then it goes down to the Bahamas, and then it goes on to Jamaica, and then maybe somewhere else, and then home. And I'm really thinking, oh God, you know, I turn up. Have you been on one of these sea
No,
cruises?
no, that's what says you've never.
It is like a city on the sea.
Wow.
It is massive.
Yeah.
It's like a block of buildings in New York. It's fucking enormous. There's like 12 floors. There's maybe 20
That's
restaurants.
quite exciting, yeah.
Casino, theatres, shops, and yeah, pretty much not 24/7, but maybe 14 hours every day of music. But it's on deck.
You've got to go and see Paul Stanley doing his acoustic show or something.
Well, Kiss did do an unplugged.
Yeah, of course
on the deck by the pool.
Did they?
For as the boat left Miami Harbour, they did a special unplugged, no makeup. It was great.
Yeah, no, I'd imagine
they were funny.
I've heard them do the unplugged. They're good. Yeah, yeah.
And so this is good. But then the rest of the stay, you know, different decks have different concerts.
Yeah.
So Kiss did 2 shows.
So as you go down, the concerts get, you know, worse and worse as you get lower.
Well, you'd think, but not really. I mean, obviously they're lesser known bands, but there is a huge theatre. So, like on deck 7, there's a theatre that's as big as the Hammersmith Odeon.
Yeah.
You know, or your local Apollo or whatever it is. You know. A theatre that maybe holds 4,000 or 5,000 people, and they did 2 shows there on 2 different nights, 2 completely different sets. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. But you think it was like the TARDIS. How do you get all this? Well, you get all this because look how big this thing is.
Yeah.
And so I saw Kiss 3 times in 3 days, but they also had like Warrant.
Oh, that would be quite good.
She's my
cherry pie. Yeah, all that. No Janie though. Sadly.
No Janie, sadly.
Yeah.
Janie had a gun. I don't know, how did Janie die? I can't remember.
I think it was just rock and roll excess. Discovered in a hotel room. Sad story, because I have to say, I'm sure I interviewed him a couple of times, and he was all right. And he also, he could write good songs, Janie, because he wrote most of the Warrant hits.
What was the big hit ballad they had?
Sometimes she cries when she's lying next to me. Sometimes she weeps. That one.
I don't know. Sing me some more. I've just thought of a very good on the road story. With Def Leppard.
So I remember being in the Kerrang office, I think, with one of the blokes from Warrant, just making chitter chatter as you do. And I said to him, "Where do you want to go to in London?" He said, "The Eiffel Tower."
I remember years ago as a PR, many years ago, doing REO Speedwagon when they came to London. And this is before they had any big hits in America, alone in the UK. And they were doing a place called The Venue. I don't know if that was still going when you began your gigging career. But it was a kind of oversized club in Victoria in London.
Right.
So you'd get reasonably big bands playing there, but it was lots of tables and drinks, a bit like the Roxy in LA, but much bigger.
Yeah.
And they were there, and it was their only UK show because it was the only, they couldn't sell enough tickets.
Yeah.
But the next night they were in Amsterdam, and then a week after that, a day after that, Paris.
Yeah,
and something. And at the end, I remember the singer going, "Hey, yeah, everybody, I'm going to see you all tomorrow night in Amsterdam, yay!" Because he just
didn't know where it was.
No, just drive
just up the road. Yeah,
see you tomorrow night in Amsterdam.
Yeah, okay,
motherfucker.
Yeah.
So they've got Warrant, they've got Adler's Appetite for Destruction.
Yeah, what are they going to play? Who knows?
And they've got a singer that welcome to the jungle.
Yeah.
You got ready, guys.
Yeah.
It could be Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, well, it could be Stephen Adler. God, poor guy.
He was. I really have a lot of time for Stephen.
Yeah,
Fantastic. I did talk to him. You heard my story, right?
I did hear your story.
Yeah, that's for another
Can't tell
time.
that story. Yeah.
No, can't tell that story. But here's a nice on the road story that will warm the cockles of your heart. On the road with Def Leppard, I just remembered this one. I don't know where we were. Boston, Denver. But in those days, me and Steve Clark were like, you know.
You were the twins?
The Glimmer
the
twins.
Toxic Twins.
We were the Toxic
Twins, albeit slightly different heights. Steve? Yeah.
Steve wasn't tall.
Wasn't it? I thought he was quite tall.
No, he just looked that way.
Who am I mistaking him for?
No, you're tall. He wasn't tall.
That's right.
No, Joe Elliott's tall.
I knew what Joe Elliott. Maybe I'm thinking of Joe Elliott.
No, Steve
He's
was
tall.
just very skinny,
Right,
so he looked like he should be lanky. But anyway, him and I always ended up together at the end of every night because we were the
Toxic
Twins. Yeah. And this particular night, this some flash hotel somewhere, he's in my room. We've taken the mirror off the wall. We've got it all going on. He used to drink litre bottles of vodka and put some little, soft drink in it to kill the smell.
Right.
Cranberry juice. That was it. Vodka and cranberry juice. So like 8 inches of vodka and a centimetre.
A splash of cranberry.
Just enough to make it go red.
Yeah.
And we'd be drinking those. And this particular night, he just passed out. I mean, it's probably 5 in the morning,
Boredom.
But he's...
As Mick launched into another tale.
Steve, let me tell you about
my
days.
I know. I've got a great idea for a lyric.
He goes like this: "You're my cherry pie."
Yeah.
Da, 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 da. So he passes out, and I'm trying to wake him. And now this is, when someone's gone.
Yeah.
I thought, oh fuck, what am I going to do? Because it's not one of those 5 in the morning. You can't even call the tour manager or a friend and go, man, Steve's passed out.
Yeah.
Because also,
this is where when you read the rock biographies, this is go. Well, I just left him. I don't know what happened after that.
That is exactly what has happened many, many times.
Yeah,
Bon
I know.
Scott being the ultimate, which we will talk about one day. But so I'm like,
it wasn't me. I just left him.
Yeah.
He seemed fine.
But this is my room.
What have you been doing? Well, we've been up for 6 days taking drugs, man. What do you think we've been doing?
I said to him, the heroin is quite strong.
Yeah.
But he was in this thing where he'd been in and out of rehab. He was like the black sheep of the group. They were always kind of watching him for how much he drank, blah, blah, blah.
Obviously not that close.
Well,
let's just leave him with Mick. Mick will keep an eye on him. That's what they said.
Honestly, he'd be in the bar after, and we'd be like, night then, bye. And we'd be like,
yeah.
Next thing he'd be tapping on my door.
Yeah.
And so you couldn't even, with Marillion, if it had been Fish, you would have just knocked on any of their door and gone, he's fucking gone, help me.
Yeah.
They'd go, oh, But Joe Elliott didn't drink at all on that tour. They all had their little thing going on, but they kept it very, very undercover. Because
you can't. I mean, that's the thing you have to stress: is you can't survive a tour like that. The length of time they were touring, doing a hard show every night, it wrecks your body. I mean, I know this is a sort of overly serious note, but just the travel kills you.
Really
let alone staying up, taking drugs, and doing the rest of it. You can't do it for more than.
You can't do it, and it fucks your head up. But I guess I must have been 29 at the time, so Steve would probably be 27. So we're still in that era where you feel
you can bounce back.
Yeah.
Doesn't take a week.
But because it's on such another level of private planes and everything is to, as you said, you have to be on schedule.
On the dot, yeah. Otherwise, the other thing people say, you incur huge fines from local councils and corporations and so on.
But you also get, you know, the dirty looks from the others. The bad,
Yeah,
like I said,
yeah.
to me and Francis after 7 weeks.
Yeah,
Imagine 14 months.
Yeah.
And you're the one they're all watching.
Yeah.
Because you're the one that can't be
you're the
trusted
one that's always
with the
late.
booze
Yeah,
and the drugs.
yeah.
So it would always be stumm. And half his mantra, he'd be chopping them out. He'd be going, "Don't tell the band."
Yeah.
I'll be going, "No, fuck that." You know, I'll just write about it many years later.
Yeah.
No, it was quite, you know, don't tell anybody. It was all very much our private club, and now he's gone.
Yeah.
So I'm like, fuck. Okay. So I manage, because I mean he weighed nothing. I mean the guy was bones, you know. So I managed to pick him up and get him. It was a big double bed. I managed to get him onto one side of the bed. I undid his belt buckles. I'd read all this.
Stop right there. Yeah.
I undid his belt buckle, undid his top button,
Yeah.
placed him on his side.
You're essentially a medical professional.
I just read many rock and roll books and how people died. So I'm thinking of Bonzo at this point. You know, after he said, they go, he drank 32 vodkas. I'm like, me and Steve used to start with 32 vodkas. Should we just have something? I'll have 32 vodkas. Good man. Same for me. You know, and then you'd have a party. So I get him on the bed. I've got him lying on his side. I've undone his belt buckle. I've taken his shoes off, undone his collar. And I've got a waste paper basket on his side, so that if he throws up, at least it'll go into the waste paper basket. It's daylight outside now, and I'm thinking, well, what do I do? I better get in the other side.
Oh.
So I get into bed.
Did you undo your belt buckle?
I think I did.
Just to be on the safe side.
No, I get into bed. I'm like fucking jeans off, you know, t-shirt and knickers left on, and just jump in. So, because also, you know, when you got to sleep, when you got to, you know, so I'm out. I'm fucking gone. And don't forget, he smoked, I smoked. No one ever opened a window. It must have been just awful in this room. And anyway, it must have been about 9 o'clock or something. You know, it's one of those dreadful things where you've been up all night and you've slept for 3 hours.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse, right? And the phone rings. No mobiles. You know, if you want to
just
call
the hotel
somebody, call the phone in the room.
Yeah.
Phone rings. Phone's on his side of the bed, and he's still got his back to me. So I'm lying there, and the phone rings. I go, what do I lean over here?
Yeah.
While I'm trying to think about it, his hand goes out and grabs the phone. Still lying his side, grabs the phone. Takes the phone to his ear and he's like, huh? What? Puts the phone down. And I'm thinking, oh God, it's probably for me. You know, I went, who was it? And he went, ah! Ah! I went, Steve, calm down. It's only me. It's only me. He went, what are you doing in my fucking room? I went, Steve, it's not your room. It's mine. Yeah. And he went, ah! Ah! And he jumped out of bed. Well, he was on the bed.
His trousers fell down.
He was still around him. He kind of grabbed his jumper or whatever it was, his jacket, and he fucking ran out the door, slammed it. And I'm thinking, well, this has gone bad because I haven't had a chance to say, we see you past.
You hadn't done the interview.
Yeah, lucky for you, I was here. I fucking undid your belt, mate, and put the waste paper back. So I'm thinking, what do I do? What do I do? And literally 2 minutes later, a little tap on the door. I thought, oh no. So I go to the door and open it, and it's Steve. He goes, I think I left my shoes in there. I went, sorry, mate, stay there. I went and got the shoes. And I came back, and he went, don't tell the band. I went, no, don't worry, mate, don't worry. Yeah. I said, you okay? I said, you he goes, I don't want to know. And he just, off he went, yeah.
So who was on the phone?
Fuck
Never found out.
Fuck no.
Never found out.
Fuck no. Probably, that time of day, probably Ross saying you're coming to the gym.
Yeah. Like, as long as it wasn't the wife, you know. He's in bed with Steve Clark. I heard. Oh no, I won't tell that story.
No,
no, because it was about two footballers. They were involved in a famous incident where one of them was stabbed by his wife because she came home one day and found him in bed with the other footballer.
Was one of them David Beckham?
No, one of them wasn't David Beckham, and she thought they were having a gay affair. But no, what had happened is they'd picked up some unit taken her back to whoever place it was, double teamed her. She'd got up and gone home. And they were both passed out until the wife came home. I can't tell you who it was.
And they explained. They said, "No, we're not.
No, honestly, we're not.
We had a bird.
What do you do? How do you get out of that one?"
Yeah, you saying that, I'm now thinking of certain stories I don't think I can tell. So
I can't tell that story. So
well, yeah. What, the footballer one?
Yeah, cut that one out.
Yeah, cut that one out.
Yeah, that won't go out, will it? We're guaranteed.
So what do you think? I mean, it's hard to say, isn't it? But do you have a particularly fond on tour, on the road?
Yes, I don't know if I mentioned that I went on the road with Lisa.
Oh no,
no! I think my favourite.
That. We're not doing that.
You know my favourite one.
No.
My favourite one. I would say, out of all of them, there were two. One which was the first time I ever went to New York, and it was to go with King Diamond. Billy,
the occultist,
the occultist. It was going to be on the road with King Billy. We got to New York, me and Ray Palmer, inevitably, middle of the night. We're supposed to. Maggie Farron was his PR. See, that's induced laughter. You know what's going to happen. She sent us to this hotel, and Ray's going, "I've never heard of this place," and I'll never forget the name of it. It's called the Iroquois Hotel.
Oh yeah, no, I stayed there. It's well known. Yeah. Yeah.
We go to the Iroquois Hotel, right, middle of the night.
I think it's Iroquois.
The
Iroquois,
whatever. And no joke,
I think Iroquois.
There's some,
I want to hear you say
Iroquois. There's some geezer gives us a key to this room. We go up the stairs, and you could literally see the marks where the lock had been consistently jimmied open by some crowbar. and open the door, and it was like opening the door into a room in Psycho or something, just dark, when you imagine there's a body in the corner. And Reza, we can't have this done. We can't have this. And he's gets on the phone to Maggie Farron. Maggie, I don't care if it's midnight. Do it in we're in the Iroquois, and we can't stay here. So she transferred us to the Gramercy Park.
Oh right,
which was far better. I mean, it was kind of old, but it was
Central Park West.
Yeah, but it was nice. It had like big echoing lift shafts, and we go off to meet King Billy the next day. King Diamond. I always call him King Billy. That was always his nickname at Kerrang for some reason. I can't even remember how he got that nickname, King Billy.
Amazing.
Maybe that was his name.
At Kerrang, we gave rock stars weird nicknames. Yeah. Surely not.
King, and that wasn't his. Billy wasn't his name. I only ever called him King. But we go to meet him the next day, right? King. When we went to the gig, he was playing a gig. We were walking towards the gig. Me and Ray. There's all these people streaming towards us. The gig's off. The gig's off. We get there. And King Billy had lost his voice, and it stayed lost for 2 weeks. During which time we stayed at the Gramercy Park, waiting for it to come back. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
It was great. Yeah, I remember that with great fondness. Yeah.
Okay, an Ozzy Osbourne story. I think we've probably been going for long enough, so maybe we'll end it on this. We'll see.
Yes.
But I remember you saying that reminds me of the amount of times I was on the road with Ozzy, and the gig would be cancelled, and there'd always be some excuse. But the main reason was he didn't come out of his room.
Really?
Oh okay. yeah, loads of time. One time with Ray Palmer, funny enough, you mentioned Ray, and always when Sharon wasn't there.
Yeah.
So this.
Well, you saying when Sharon was there, Ozzy would usually make the gig.
When Sharon was there, Ozzy could be
no surprises.
Ozzy could be on the stage. Do like her dad did with Gene Vincent.
Yeah, just put
gaffer tape around into the mic. Go crazy!
Zach Wilde nudging him in the ribs. Sing. Oh, finish with my.
So we're in America. I don't know fucking where, but Sharon's not there. She's actually in England, and the gig was. I think he'd done the gig. It was a day off, something. But he's like, "What are you doing tonight?" I said, "Well, nothing. We're on the road." He goes, "Come to my room." I went, "Okay." So I go there, and he's just been out that day, and he's bought a new bong. A bong. You know what a bong is?
I know what a bong is.
I hadn't smoked a bong since like 1974 or something. This is the early 90s. And I'm like, you bought a bong? He goes, oh yeah, fuck you, hell. And he pulls a huge bin liner, enormous like bin liner full of weed, right? So he stacks up the bong, lights it, and I just start coughing. I mean, it's just too much, you know. It's coming out of my ears.
It's like the start of Sweet Leaf.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's good, Mick. Yeah. Go on, mate. With the lighter. I cannot stop coughing. So he goes, you need a brandy. That'll chill you out. So he gets me this brandy.
It's always with these people, the remedy is always like something far worse. And it's like, you've overdosed on heroin. What you need is a shot of speed. You know, that'll bring you round.
But that was the era for those 70s and 80s rock stars.
Yeah.
You know, if you were...
like you've got smallpox. You've got smallpox. What you need is malaria because it counterbalances.
I remember being on the road with Thin Lizzy, and actually another time with Hawkwind, where I just got ill. And they went, oh no, don't worry. And I got taken into a room, and they cut out a couple of huge rails of Coke and a large glass of Jack Daniels. There you go. Now you feel better, except you don't. You know. So he goes, you need a brandy. So he has this really expensive brandy. He pours it into like a pint glass. So I'm having a sip. And he goes, oh, I can see you're going, you need some of this. And suddenly he's now got a big bag of cocaine. So inevitably this goes on. It's now 2 a.m. We are talking utter bollocks. But he's so funny.
Yeah,
He was showing me a video actually of this groupie, this tape that this groupie had sent to a famous guitarist who I can't say the name of, who'd given it to Ozzy to make him laugh. Yeah. The guitarist's name was Steve. And this groupie's blowing...
And his belt buckle was slightly undone.
No, it wasn't Steve Clark.
Oh, okay, so we've narrowed it down.
She's blowing ping pong balls out of her fanny.
Yeah.
And she's going...
that video.
Am I a clever girl, Steve? Am I a clever girl, Steve? I'm always going, you're all right for me, darling. You have me fucking eye out, you know. So we're smoking and drinking and snorting and laugh. And we've reached that kind of delirium where who knows what's being said. And suddenly he goes, do you know what? You're fucking right. I went, what? I'm thinking, what? What? What am I right about? I'm never right about anything.
Yeah.
He went, I'm going to fucking ring her and tell her now. I went, what? Ring who? He went, Sharon, you're fucking right. I need a proper fucking manager. I went, don't fucking... I didn't say that. He said, you just fucking said it and you're fucking right. I'm ringing her now to tell her. I'm going, please don't do that. Please don't do that. He picks up the phone, he dials it. Hello, Sharon? He goes, I'm sitting here with fucking Mick Wall. And I was saying to him, and he said to me, and I agree with him. I'm going, no. And he goes, what I need's a proper fucking manager, not my fucking wife managing me. I need like a fucking Peter Mensch. I'm sitting there going, oh, for fuck's sake, shut the fuck. And then he suddenly goes, what? What? Oh, uh-huh. Yeah. All right then. All right. Okay. Bye. I went, what did she say? And he goes, she says she wants a fucking divorce. I'm going, ring her back. Say no, just a misunderstanding. Nah, fucker, you're right. We don't fuck it. I'm like, I'm not right. Stop quoting me. You know.
But you can imagine how many times he's rung her to tell her some mad shit.
The next time I saw her, I literally said, and by the way,
it wasn't me.
Basically, it wasn't me. You can kill him. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. And she was like, no, he's like that with everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, are we done?
That was a splendid story to end on.
We have more stories, but maybe we'll do a part 2 to this.
Yeah, we should do on the road at festivals. Because they're just even worse.
Okay. All right, hope you enjoyed the positive.
Yeah, very good.
If you liked this episode, Be sure to leave us a review, share it with a friend, or plain old subscribe wherever you happen to listen to it. For full episode show notes, visit nofilter.media/Getcha Rocks Off.
This has been a No Filter Media production.
Say what you want.